Welcome, everyone, to Go Beyond Conversations, where we meet intriguing people who aren't afraid to go beyond their perceived limits as they craft a meaningful life in an intentional way. My hope is that you'll find role models, practical suggestions, and motivation you can use to invest in your own growth path. So get ready for an intriguing conversation that will inspire you to go beyond your perceived limits. Our guest today is Holly Rilinger. So Holly, welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
Yeah, glad to have you here. So Holly is a Nike master trainer, an author, the founder of the Lifted Method, which we're going to talk about. This is a science-backed approach to using strength training for people of all fitness levels. I have been in this program since the beginning, and have worked out with Holly both virtually and in person. She does both. And so if you're interested in this, you can be anywhere in the world and work out virtually with her. So we'll talk about that some. I'm going to ask Holly, of course, about some fitness tips. So if you want to learn some basics about just physical health, including nutrition, we'll have that discussion. But I also want to talk with her about her journey as an entrepreneur and founding this business and building a community of people. And then also just how you can use concepts from strength training and apply that to your professional life. So we're going to talk broadly. So even if you're not particularly interested in strength training, there's a lot here about risk-taking and entrepreneurship and about applying concepts from one field, the fitness world, into another field, your own professional life and your personal life. All right, so Holly, should we dive in? You ready to go?
Let's go. Let's do it.
I've been looking forward to this conversation for so long. I've been excited about it. I've been rereading your book, and so I'm just kind of just happy to be here and happy to spend time with you.
Me too.
So maybe my first question, to let people who don't know you get a sense of your background, could you share your background, basically how you became an athlete or why you chose to be an athlete, and then why specifically you chose basketball as your chosen sport?
Yeah, I mean, I've lived in New York for the last 20 years, but I'm a Midwesterner at heart. So I was born in Kansas. My grandparents are dairy farmers, very modest, upbringing. Grew up in Nebraska until I was about 13 and then moved to Virginia. So been in a lot of places. But, as a kid, I was very athletic, just loved sports. That was just kind of where I felt like I fit in, bit of a tomboy, but always just felt like on the field or on the court, I really just belonged. And ironically, I really loved soccer. And my parents made me quit because they were afraid I was going to get hurt by the boys, which is super ironic because I'm pretty strong. I probably would have been more likely to hurt the boys on that field, but everything happens for a reason, and soccer really didn't come around until even further along. So I was really grateful to have a chance to play basketball, and really I chose basketball because it was something I could do on my own. I didn't need somebody to catch or kick back, or I could go and I could shoot hoops on my own. And like a lot of things, when you become real good at something, it gives you feedback. And I kept going and really enjoyed it more and more. And basketball became my thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that your parents protected the boys from you. And
Right, exactly.
it's so silly when you think about it, but it's real. And also, of course, the gender stereotypes that are, and that's one of the things I really respect about you is the gender stereotypes are real in the society, and they're but they can get in the way. And so what I love is your message. It works for everybody, regardless of gender, of course, but also regardless of stage of life. And it was clear from a young age, you just decided to be an athlete. You saw yourself as an athlete, and you've always been an athlete. And one of the lines that I love to say to people I work with is repeat after me: I am an athlete. And so that sense of honoring your body, I think, is really important. So maybe let's build on that. You went on to play basketball at James Madison University, right? And then you went on
Yeah.
to play pro ball.
Yeah.
So you were all in as a basketball player. Are there any experiences, maybe from your college or pro days, that you think that kind of stand out to you, like any lessons that you learned that that kind of stuck?
Oh God, so many. There's a few that I can think back on. Kind of broad, and I don't even think this is the one that we used, Charles, when we chatted before, but there's a big difference between being an emotional player and being a passionate player. And
Mhm.
that's something I've always struggled with, like being able to conduct myself in a way that's poised even when their stakes are high. And
Mhm.
like, I used to put a rubber band around my wrist because if I would make a mistake or I would have a turnover, sometimes that would lead me to an instant foul, you know, and being able to regulate my emotions and still be a passionate player, but not do stupid things.
Yeah.
And I was playing professionally in France, and I was a high scoring point guard. And they played this box and one on me. And if you're an athlete, you know what a box and one is. It's annoying. Somebody's in your face like this, like not letting you get the ball. And I was just like, it's like a gnat.
Right.
Halftime, I hadn't scored a single point, and I drop kicked the basketball into the stands. And the second it left my foot, I was like, that was not a good move. And I almost got fired from but you know, just really learning the difference between being passionate about something and being emotional about it. And that's something I've really tried to learn my whole life. But it's something that translates into business, into life, into relationships, into, you
Yeah.
know, and there's so many lessons to learn on a court as an athlete that you can translate into life.
Yeah, and I like the, I took a note as you were talking. So staying poised when the stakes are high, and that is absolutely a leadership trait. So if you're a CEO of a company, that's so obvious. Like, what is that skill set? And you incorporate meditation and breath work in some of your, the exercise that you do, the trainings that you do. Yeah, is there, so that you make the distinction? So passion is a good thing in this case, like you care, but you don't want to lose control too. So any tips on like how do you stay poised then? Like, so when you're in this moment and when it's really heightened, do you have any specific tips that you found helpful for you?
Well, breathing, you know, and back in the 90s, meditation wasn't really a word that we heard as much as we do now. And I would sit in my locker before I'd go on the court or I'd go into a game and just close my eyes and breathe for a couple seconds. And, you know, now we realize that's breath work, that's meditation, that's bringing yourself into the present moment. You know, when, you know, as a college kid or as an adult, we got a million things going on. We got our kids, we got our home life, we got our work, like, but really being able to just take a moment and realizing that even a minute or 2 minutes to close your eyes and bring your focus to your breathing, bring it to the present moment. We have something in lifted called chaos to calm, and you could actually take a very chaotic moment and in 2 minutes ground yourself enough to be able to have a poised conversation, have a tough conversation, hit a free throw, you know. So that's been a real like life lesson for me that I took from the court. That's helped me in many facets of my life.
For sure. No, actually, I actually had that noted, but let's digress on chaos to calm for a minute, because
Yeah.
this is the term I learned from you, which I love. And the way you do it is like in our workouts, we'll be kind of 2/3 or 3/4 of the way through, and then you really jack up the intensity, and so you're getting close to like max heart rate or just utterly exhausted, and then from that moment of utter exhaustion, we then drop into a meditation. And the analogy you use, of course, is can you tell people about when you shoot free throws, for example? Like, what's your routine shooting free throws?
Yeah.
Translate to non-basketball, but how do you use that in a free throw example?
Yeah. And for starters, like my dad always told me, like, don't miss a free throw. That's a gimme. Like everybody should be able to hit that shot, uncontested shot on the free throw line. And, you know, what it taught me was chaos could be going on around me. I could be completely out of breath. I could be winning the game. I could be losing the game. I could be aggravated. I could be hot. I could be cold. But that moment, I have an opportunity to perform and to do something I can do well. And I still remember my routine because I did it the same thing, same time every time. I'd step up, my right foot on the line. I'd take a deep breath. I'd look up, get the ball from the referee. I'd take a deep breath. I'd take 3 dribbles. I'd go into my stance, I'd look up at the rim, and I'd shoot. And it was every single time the same thing. Hundreds and hundreds and thousands of times doing the same thing. And your central nervous system is just like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're shooting a free throw. And then
Right.
you're just in it. It doesn't matter. I mean, I played at Cameron, at Duke, and I got to say, there's nothing
Yes.
harder in the world than shooting a free throw with that in the background. And it was actually the most distracting moment that I've ever had to shoot a free throw. So
No, the fans know it. They're trying to get in your face and all that, of course.
yeah, it's wild. So yeah, you better have a routine.
Yes. So, all right, let me summarize what I heard you say. So, chaos to calm is a critical concept that is about staying poised, right, in moments of great pressure and intensity. And breath is a key aspect to it. The other thing you mentioned is you have a routine. So you every time you shot free throws, you did it exactly the same way. And this is something I think is really helpful for anyone to learn. The practice is the thing. These concepts are not that hard, right? Like, use your breath and stay calm when it's time. Yeah, I mean, conceptually, it's not a very difficult concept to understand, but the practice is the thing. And so I think what you do very well, and I think if you want to broadly define athlete, I think what athletes do well is they develop systems and then it turned it into a practice where they've got this regular, consistent effort. But there's a strategic component because you need to understand, right, what it is you're doing. You don't randomly do things in some order. There's a specific purpose behind it. So understanding the strategy matters, but then it's the practice. But you're nodding as I'm talking, right? So this is routine is
Yeah.
really a critical component, right? And I think if there's advice for anyone watching this is to think about what routines do you set in your life that you just do the same over and over again that serve you. Is it fair to summarize it that way?
Yeah, and it's even the little things you don't think about. Like me lacing up my shoes to go on the court was telling my body, my mind, my whole system, you're getting ready to do something meaningful. So just giving yourself these little things. And as a CEO or in business, like it could be, when I go in and teach a class, I have a moment with myself, even though I've done it a million times, but I could be distracted or nervous or who knows what's going on in my life. I just have a little thing that I do, and I'm like, it's almost like you're going into character. You're like,
Yeah.
and scene, like, here we go.
I love that image. Yeah, exactly. So you have a role to play, and then you have you can have a routine that makes it time to make a transition into this role. Now I'm in charge of this class, and you play that role well.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Love it. Well, so let's talk about the method that you put together, because as what I was saying before is you need a strategy to then put the routine in place. It's not a random routine. It's a routine that comes from a strategy. And I think Lifted does this really well. So let me give a little background on my relationship to Holly and Lifted. So I met Holly over a decade ago as a spin instructor. She was a spin instructor in Flywheel in New York City. And her class, it was actually very annoying. Her class was so popular. You really had to, like, the moment that it opened, you had to like sign up immediately. It's like, like buying concert tickets. It's like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, and then every so often people are like, I'm like, Holly, can you get me in your class? So everybody was always trying to hook up, see if she could get her in. So that's when I met her. I'm like, she's just awesome. Like, why is she so popular? And then I took her class. I'm like, oh, I get it. And then you wrote a book, and I have it here. So I went to your book launch. This is
Yeah, you did.
right? And what in this book you go through the Lifted method, and it includes a 4-week training program where you put that in place. You've got a bunch of stuff in here. You can explain it, but actually, yeah, maybe will you talk about the what's in the book if people want to get the book, and then the Lifted program more broadly. What was your vision behind it, and what is it you're trying to help people do?
Yeah. First of all, you can't see it from here, but I'm 5'4", so being a pro basketball player was not really something I was supposed to do. So I had to work pretty hard at it. I had to work hard at being faster, quicker, stronger. My mental game had to be sharp. I had to be better at every level to make that happen. So for me, it was talking a lot about like what I had to do mentally, what I had to do emotionally, like what I put in my body for food. And during that process, I got really interested in how I can train my body to do something specifically, faster, quicker, stronger, all those things that made me an athlete. And in that process, I actually fell in love with training. And I knew back then how important it was, but I think even more than ever, we're hearing more scientifically, founded information about we're going to live to 100 now, or at least 90. Our great grandparents didn't. So in midlife, when our bones became brittle and things started to fall apart, it's cool because you're not going to be around that much longer anyway. But now we are. And what do we do to take care of our body so that we can enjoy all those years that we're putting all this effort in to save money, hit those years where we're going to have more freedom? And, I'm really passionate about that because in a lot of ways, it's not that hard, but we just need to educate ourselves on this is what we have to do to create the bodies that are going to take us through life to allow us to be strong and live great lives and be mobile and independent and all those things.
Yeah. In some of your classes, you'll say some version of like, you're making an investment in next decade. Like today's workout is an investment in next decade, right? I love that thought.
Yeah, and just to your point, like I think a lot of us at least me, I was told at a young age to save money. Like, don't spend it all, invest it, put it in a bank account. But we need to now be teaching our kids and ourselves that if that bank account's full, but our physical account's not full, we're not going to be able to enjoy that financial investment. So we need to make physical investments into our future, which strength training, cardio, those are all part of the formula.
Yeah. So one thing I want to highlight. So in your book, Lifted, like you have, it's not just here are the the weight routines that you should follow. You have a mindset component, which includes meditation. You go into detail about meditation, and I'll just say from having taken our classes, it starts with meditation and ends with meditation. So each of our workouts, you're incorporating meditation into it, including that chaos to calm. So the second
Mm-hmm.
meditation is immediately at the moment when you're exhausted and your heart rate's really high. So there's a component. So you have that, but maybe talk a little bit more about what's the method itself, and if someone wanted to work with you or take the lifted method, how do you bring people in, and what's the progression?
Yeah. So the actual class format is something I put a lot of thought into. And I wanted to bring in a lot of smart training, just scientific training, but also what I've learned as an athlete, as to like centering myself, getting ready to move. So basically, the format is meditation because we want to get our mind in the game first. We want to be present. From there, we work on mobility, making sure that our body is mobile enough to do what we want to ask it to do. From there, it's activation. We don't just come into a workout ready to go. We want to activate our glutes. We want to activate our core. We want to get that body, like the muscles, moving in the way that we want to move it. And then we actually get our heart rate up. So that point, we're ready to move and we're ready to grab heavy weights. And, heavy weights is something we're hearing a lot about. And obviously heavy is relative. Charles was just talking about snatching 30-pound dumbbells over his head earlier today in one of our classes. But someone else who's new to this, that might be 10-pound dumbbells because that's heavy to them. But really the concept of using heavy weights, really breaking down muscle fiber, and so that the body repairs itself. And then the concept of 10 out of 10, again, something I find really valuable, working yourself up into this frenzied state and then being able to control your mind, control your breath, get yourself back into a place where you feel poised and controlled. And one thing I do want to mention about that, I've seen classes where severely ADHD people sit down and they cannot keep their eyes closed. They're just like fidgeting, they're this, they're that. That second meditation, when you've moved your body, I've seen that exact same person sit down completely still and engaged. And it's just the power of moving your body, slowing your mind down, getting your place in your body and your mind in one place. And that's really powerful.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, so then let's build on this. So you're not just teaching people how to honor their body and to invest in it for this long term, wonderful long, match your health span to lifespan, and
Yeah.
make less long time. You're not just doing that. You're also an entrepreneur. So let me ask you about the business side of this. So you were a pro player, and then it's always a transition. There's a saying, athletes die twice. Which just this concept of one, the professional identity. In your case, you were a pro, but also just the body, as over time, weakens just with aging. But I'm wondering, so your entrepreneurial journey, what was it that led you not just to be an athlete and to do it at a high level, but then to create a business model around it? And were there any lessons learned that might be interesting to share?
Yeah, so many. Well, for me, just I want to do something I'm passionate about. Period. End of story. I don't. It was. My dad told me at an early age, like, work for yourself. If you can, be an entrepreneur. And if I was going to do that, I needed to do something that was really, really important to me. It was not an easy transition for me. Like, so I want all of you, to know, like, if you do have a business sense, and that's easy to you, and the physical's not easy, I'm just reversed. The physical is easy for me because I've been doing it so long. But the business side of things, boy, I'm still learning. I'm learning about like SEOs and, COGS and all these KPIs. Like, these are all things that I had to learn the hard way through. But I think at the baseline of what I did, what was important to me, I have to be passionate about it. It has to be something that I have a toolbox that I've used since I was 13 years old. And I feel like it's my responsibility to go out and share that now. And it's meant that I had to hire the professional coaches to teach me how to be a business person. So if you flip that model, you guys are in the business world. You've got Charles as your coach, but you're probably going to need somebody to guide you and say, hey, here's what you have to do physically. And I think that's the important thing in life. Like, we're not all designed to do everything. So find out what you need help doing and make it a little bit easier for yourself. And that's where I am from a business perspective, like
Yeah.
learning to hire the people around me to teach me how to do those things.
That's great. Yeah. And, I mean, any good athlete has multiple coaches. So it's not like one. I always encourage people to have like many coaches or mentors in their lives, because there's just so many ways that, people can help you. And so combining is a really good thing. You say near the end of your book, or at the end of your book, is in a kind of the reflection at the end, that the insight you had was it wasn't just to become fit yourself, but was to share this with others. And I noticed, like, this is a quote from your book. You said, what if this way of living not only transform your body, but also makes you happier, gives you more energy, and brings you a deeper sense of peace? So this is what you learned as an athlete, but then your decision was to share it with others. So I hear your comment about you need to be passionate about whatever you do. What a lovely lesson from your father. I
Yeah.
know the gift that he gave you, and also that you were smart enough to listen to your old man.
Yeah.
But then also that you decided to take the risk in something that maybe you didn't feel as comfortable with, which is entrepreneurship and growing a business and learning all those acronyms that you were throwing out. And so this move, this other orientation, is that, do you think that's the foundation, for why you've been successful as an entrepreneur, is because this is essentially about being of service to others? I'm putting words in your mouth, but would you say that?
I mean, listen, my strength and conditioning coach, who was a huge role model for me through college, he would always say to me, when you can take what you learned and
Mhm.
then teach it to others, you complete the circle. And that was way early in everything. And I was like, okay, sure. When you're 20, you're like, sounds great. But it's true. There's so much satisfaction that comes from, okay, I've really, in a lot of ways, mastered this through hundreds of, tens of thousands of hours of work and doing it. And now I really do feel a great sense of satisfaction and skill in being able to now take this, package it. And again, I mean, I met with Charles 10 years ago, and we sat in over breakfast. And he would say, listen, how do you scale this? How can you take this? How can you do this? And he was very instrumental in me just not being in a spin room making money for Flywheel, but how do I make this into a scalable package? And he's been very instrumental in me, like, getting me on my way. And now, like, we have so many packages now that we are able to work with people virtually, 200, 300, 4 people at a time each month. And, that's taking this passion and being able to teach other people, but then also having that piece where you're like, okay, how's it working for me too? How is this actually scalable or something I can do and touch a lot of people?
Yeah. And I want to emphasize that point you made. So for anyone watching this, when you just think about your life, what would it look like for you to complete the circle, as your coach, kind of your strength coach told you? And that completing the circle is taking what you've learned and sharing it with others, right? That's a really powerful insight. I think a lot of people, it sounds so obvious when you say it, maybe, but I don't think everybody gets this. And then when you get this epiphany and then realize this sharing it with others, that is what business model is a transaction where you're being of service and someone's willing to pay you for it, right? And you're passionate about it, so it's kind of this win-win positive feedback loop. That's why I was supportive of you and interested in you, because it was so obvious to me that your passion, and
Yeah.
you're great at it. I'm like, everybody needs more Holly in their life, is what I was thinking.
Oh,
I'm like, so how do you do that? And then that's the business model, right? So okay, all right, so let's bring it down to, like, let's imagine a person watching this conversation who's really busy, and they have made a lot of commitments to other people, including, say that they run a business. So they're like you, they're an entrepreneur, they have employees, they have customers. They do not have enough time in the day. They just
yeah.
don't. And that's the real world. And they also know, I get it, I'm supposed to exercise, you with your muscles can lecture me about it, but I just, like, I mean, I just don't have the time. So what advice would you give to a busy person who they know they need to improve their physical health? It's just really hard. Any like helpful tactical things for someone like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think number one, really seeing the importance in it, that you're doing everything you can to build your financial worth, but, like, what is it going to be worth to you without your physical worth? And that's just a mindset. We've already covered that. But then again, really looking at your week and understanding how many hours do you have a week to dedicate to that. And that's just getting really tactical and understanding, okay, I'm well organized. I know I have 4 hours a week to dedicate. From there, prioritizing what's actually going to take you the furthest, what's going to give you the longest, the best run for your money, or the best run for your time rather, and that's important because if you look at, tennis, it's fun and you should do that, but I wouldn't put that in your 4 hours that you have to dedicate to actually becoming healthier. That's a fun thing. Not to put down tennis, but strength training should be at the foundation of what you do. 3 hours a week, strength training. Zone 2 cardio, keeping your heart healthy, because your muscles are going to take you longer in life. It's going to give you a quality of life. Your heart's going to actually give you like the capacity to live longer, while your muscles give you a better quality of life. Zone 2 cardio, just in case you hear that word, you don't know what it is, that is called conversational cardio, meaning if you're walking at a fast pace, highly underrated, but so great for your heart. That's something you could log between meetings. Like you're walking from this building to that building in New York City. You get 15 minutes in, it goes to your 150 minutes a week. So if you can get really structured and really understand where should I put my little bit of time that I have, that's going to help you out. Then you can say, okay, tennis, surfing, my bar class, or whatever it is that I love. You put that at the end as kind of your extras. And then you can start to understand, okay, now I'm actually doing the things that are going to help me protect my life, protect my body, live a longer life, live a healthier life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm thinking, if you say, for example, 3 hours a week of strength training, and that should be your starting point. So first of all, what you're offering here is strength training. If there's a hierarchy, it's the most important. Like physical activity, that's the most important. And then you've got the movement, 150 minutes a week. And some people like count their steps, which I think would be a great way to do it too, right? And at conversational level. But on strength training, so if someone doesn't have time to get to the gym, does it count if you just do some like push-ups and sit-ups when you get out of bed? I mean, can you sprinkle it in? Like I can't have a full hour dedicated in the day, but I could do 5 or 10 minutes here, like 50 push-ups and sit-ups in the morning, and then over lunch I might do some more things like that, muscle strength.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I wish I could say that's gonna do the job. I mean, obviously something is always better than nothing, but I have to be honest, I would make your first priority to make more time for that. Because ultimately you are going to suffer. Your bones aren't going to be as strong. Your muscles aren't going to be as strong. And again, that's a priority thing. I think everybody in your life, everybody's life, maybe it's less time on your phone, or it's finding a way to put that together, because there has to be a way you can put that little bit of time together. I'm not saying it has to be an hour together. It might be 6 days a week, 30 minutes. That might be what it is. But trying to find the resistance training, trying to find a way to get the weights in should be a priority.
Okay, good. And I was kind of almost baiting you with that question. You could tell. I knew she was going to say no. But I want to emphasize this. So a key takeaway here is that choosing not to do strength training is actually a prioritization decision. You're just saying other things are more important. And the message from Holly is there's nothing more important, because without this physical health long term, all these other things become not accessible to you. There's a series of negative things that happen to you. Right?
Yeah, and I used to be on those shows, like Katie Couric show, and they'd be like, grab a coffee cup and just do it. And I'm like, no, just don't do that. It's like, do something else, read a book, and then find time to lift weights. So.
Okay. Yes. So no, fair enough. So this is why for people watching this is why I'm bringing Holly. Her lifted program gives you the structure, right? So if someone wanted to use lifted, for example, like tactically, what would they do? So I know they can go to the lifted method, and they could sign up for your newsletter, and that'll be a simple way. So they'll get your stuff. But what else? What would happen if they were actually wanted to commit to this and use lifted as their version of committing to strength training?
Yeah, we've built a few different ways to work with us over the years. So first of all, liftedmethod.com is where you find us. If you go to the bottom of the page, join our newsletter, you're going to get a free live stream class that you can take with us. That'll give you a sense of what our classes are like. You might see Charles in there and Paola working out alongside us. But we also know that people aren't always going to be able to do the live stream class. We have a virtual coaching program, which you sign up for a free consult with us. Our LA coach, Meg, who you heard about this morning, Destroying Charles,
Told me,
she will,
man.
our onboarding person will sit down with you, go over your goals. You talk about how much time you have, the kind of equipment that you have, your goals, and we create a nutrition program for you and a weight training program for you. It's all on an app. So you would take it to the gym with you. You'd say, okay, I'm going to warm up here. I'm going to do 3 sets of 10 squats, 3 sets of 10 bench press. You can log in, track your progress. We ask you to check in once a week with either pictures, your body composition. You have access to our coaches. You can chat there. So that's a great way to get some coaching virtually. We also have a great program called Blueprint, which is for people who just don't know where to start. I can say, especially for women in midlife, I didn't grow up with any role models. My dad lifted weights. I didn't know women even lifted weights, until I was 13. I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to lift weights with the boys. That's what I'm going to do.
Mhm.
So if you are a woman in midlife and you've never lifted weights, or a man and you've never lifted weights, we offer a Blueprint program that basically over 21 days, we give you the foundation. What happens when you lift weights? What kind of equipment do I need? Why do I need to eat protein? How do I recover? What do I do if I'm sore? So that's a great way just to kind of get your feet wet if you're not sure where to begin.
Yeah, perfect. And that reminds me, there's a question that I got in advance. Let me read it to you. This is from a 45-year-old executive I work with, a woman, and she said, "I'd love to hear Holly's perspective on fatigue management, specifically in midlife." And she said it's in part due to perimenopause. So that I think this is also applicable to men because I've also had similar questions from men. So fatigue in midlife seems to be a category.
Yeah,
And she said, assuming eating healthy, so she knows to eat healthy, getting solid sleep, so she knows the importance of sleep,
good.
and movement, so she knows the importance of movement. Are there any other techniques or suggestions in addition to this standard? Anything you'd add to that?
Absolutely. And this is a big conversation that's happened over the last 2 years, and that's hormones. Unfortunately, about 20 years ago, the Women's Health Organization put out a study that scared everybody away from hormones, hormone replacement therapy. They've since come back, retracted all of their statements, apologized profusely to the last 2 decades of people, and said, we misjudged, we misread the statistics in a very bad way. Actually, Peter Attia said it's one of the greatest tragedies for women over the last 20 years. And this also applies to men from a testosterone perspective. So if you're in your midlife 40s, you're a woman and you start to notice 2 things. Number one, I'm just tired. I don't have the energy to do the things I used to do. Same with men. Testosterone is a huge hormone driver. You could go get your hormones checked. For men, it's super easy. It's FDA approved. For women, you have to find the right provider. They actually give you a men's pack of testosterone and you're supposed to take 1/10 of it in a cream on your arm once a day. It will make a dramatic change to your energy levels. For women, we also estrogen, progesterone start to decline, and there is a myriad of different reasons why we want to keep our estrogen, progesterone high. Protection against Alzheimer's, protection against heart health, joint pain, brain fog, night sweats. It just goes on and on and on and on. Finally, women are realizing they don't have to suffer and just experience this decline. So I would say check with your provider, check with your GP. If you don't get help, there's organizations like MIDI Health, myalloy.com, and they would provide providers that can help you with that. And for men, it's a lot easier for you guys in a lot of ways. Just go to your GP and talk about testosterone, and they should get you on something. It's going to make a huge difference in your fatigue levels.
Awesome. All right, great. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, the one other question or line of questions I wanted to go down is, so I like using strength training or athleticism as a kind of a metaphor, reference point for non-athletic things. So are there any like concepts from strength training that are particularly effective that you could translate to like being an entrepreneur like you are, for example, or running a business or leading just a healthy life, right? Anything that you could generically transfer over that might be useful for someone who doesn't really perceive themselves so much as an athlete or really understand strength training that much?
Oh, yeah. I mean, first of all, and I can again look at this through the lens of business because there's things that, it's reversed for me. Things are always a lot scarier, like looking at them than they actually are. Like, I have a hard time with tough conversations, like letting somebody go or, giving them feedback that they're going to actually have a hard time with. Same thing with working out. A lot of times you're like, oh God, this is going to be so hard today. I'm going to have to deadlift today. And you get in there and you're like, God, I really surprised myself. I was really able to rock that weight and it wasn't half as hard, or the class wasn't half as intimidating. So many people come to class, men and women, and I guess because of my physique, and I'm like, would you prefer I'm fat? Like as a trainer, like, don't you want your trainer to be in great shape? They're like, I've just been so intimidated to come to your class. And then they come and they're like, wow, that was so much more approachable than I thought. So just the concept of getting in there, just put your clothes on, get in there and do it, because you're going to feel empowered. You're going to feel good. And the same goes with me on these conversations I've had to have. I'm like, that wasn't half as bad as I thought it was going to be. I actually really managed that because I had the courage to step in there and just be honest. So same thing from a physical perspective. The second thing I would say is self-talk is so important. I really mastered this, and my dad would always say to me, God, you just know what to say to people at the right time. And people have said this in my classes. How do you know that I was about to give up? And I at that exact breaking moment, you said just the right thing. Well, because I've been in that breaking moment so many times before, and I've said it to myself. Don't you dare let up now. Don't you dare let those last 10 seconds, waste. So
Yes.
whatever arena you're in, what are you saying to yourself? It's
Yeah.
important.
This is one of the reasons why I think your spin class was always sold out, is exactly that. It wasn't just, show up and do what you're told. You had this, the things you would say would hit, and they would hit right. Can you also talk about visualization? That came to
Oh
mind.
yeah, yeah. Oh
I'm
gosh.
talking with you about like even the free throw, like you would visualize the ball going through the net too, but maybe, how that applies outside of athletic world too.
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, Tiger Woods, like a lot of athletes talked a lot about visualization. And I was such a committed athlete. Like all I wanted was to play pro. And there wasn't even a pro league for me yet. Like that's how crazy committed I was. I was committing to something that didn't exist. But I would lay in bed and be like, how can I use this moment to better myself? And I would lay down, especially before big games, and I would actually feel my body in my mind's eye doing what I wanted to do. A crossover dribble, and then free throws. I would envision the movements, just envision that ball coming off my fingertips, and then hearing it go through the net. And the power of visualization, there's actually scientific studies that say the brain doesn't know if it's actually doing it or if it's imagining doing it. So whatever it is in your life that you're scared of, and thanks for reminding me. I'm gonna remind myself to visualize some of my like corporate moments, like
Good.
and just visualize them going so well and me being so empowered and so clear-headed. But the brain doesn't know the difference. So practice doing it so that when you're in the moment, your brain's just like, here we go. I've done this 100 times before.
And I love what you just did. You're like, oh yeah, wait, let me write that down. So all these things, you teach all these things, you've embodied all these things, but you also still sometimes forget all these things. And
Oh yeah.
I think part of the practice we were talking about before is how do you institutionalize reminders of the stuff you already know? Because it's just so easy to forget. I don't know
It
why.
really is.
I wish once you knew it, you just acted on it, but that you and I both know that's not it. So
Yeah.
right. So that's another thought is, and maybe that's the role that people like us can play, and showing up to sessions like this, or it's just a reminder to bring back to top of mind the priorities in your life, right? There's this opportunity cost and the decisions you're making. If you're ignoring your physical health, for example, as you make money, or in this case, these techniques like breath work or visualization that have been there and you've used them before, but then you just forget in this moment. So I like that thought that we can remind each other. Maybe that's a gift that we can.
And we forget that we can apply the skill that we have to other arenas, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel very confident in the gym. I felt very confident as an athlete. And like you said, an athlete dies twice. When I gave up my pro career, I literally thought that had no use in the
Yeah.
world. Like I hadn't really studied business, and little did I know that I was as valuable in any business world based off my commitment, my discipline, my ability to be coached, my ability to be a leader, my ability to win and lose. Like you have so many skills if you work hard in one part of your life that if you just understand it has application to other parts. So maybe in your case, everything you know as a CEO, taking it into how you can apply that into your physical practice, into being an athlete or being, your wellness. So, it's kind of the imposter syndrome, right? People don't think they know as much as they do. And then if you allow yourself that freedom to be like, oh, wait, I am actually skilled at this. I just need to apply it in a different way.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point. I think many people fall into, I'll call this an identity trap. You decided at age 5 you were going to be a pro basketball player, right?
Yeah.
And then you pulled it off. I mean, it's really quite remarkable. Most human
Mm.
beings are not able to do what you did, set that ambitious goal and actually pull it off. But you also set yourself up for a massive crisis, because when your pro career ended, now what are you?
Yeah.
Your entire life, as long as you could remember, this was your work. And then when you accomplish it, you had to maintain that work. And then when it's gone, what are you?
Yeah.
And this identity crisis, I think, hits people, in different ways. And yours is pretty dramatic because it was so hard to get there and took so much dedication to the exclusion of other things. You sacrificed in so many
Yeah.
ways. I think many people go through this, and perhaps that would be one other lesson, since you've lived it. The lesson to the non-athletic world is, what identity have you attached yourself to? And this is sometimes for people who need to retire, for example, or just where it's time to make a change in a career and they're stagnating and they don't know what to do. What was the move, specifically? How did you make that transition and kind of survive that death and then be reborn, if you want to use this language?
Yeah. I mean, listen, it was hard. I realized that when I would introduce myself to people at that point in my life, I'd say I'm a former pro basketball player. Because like that was all I knew who I was. Like that, it was really hard, and honestly, a lot of therapy, like understanding that I have a lot of value as a human being. Like I'm funny, I'm a good friend, I'm honest, like that you actually have things underneath that make you who you are outside of, and even as I parlayed into my professional career, because I think in a lot of ways I then became Holly, the trainer who had to be the best. And, taking a step back, I think this is great for all of us, just knowing that you can step off that stage and you have to find things about you that you understand people like, and that you don't have to be in performance mode all the time. And I've realized people like me for me, not just because of the performance I do or the athlete that I was. And I think at a human level, that's really important to understand for yourself.
Yeah, and so if I summarize what I heard you say, you went from pro athlete, this label and this thing that you actually acquire, to these generalizations about yourself, your honesty and being a good friend, being funny. So the move towards the generalities then allowed you to then create a new specific identity here as a trainer, right? And as an entrepreneur. And so maybe so if I could summarize it, the move is, can you generalize yourself to escape the trap of attaching yourself too much to one professional identity?
Yeah,
Fair?
and knowing underneath it all,
Yeah.
like I've had to work to know that underneath it all, if that failed, if lifted failed, that I'm still a valuable human being. I can, there's things I contribute relationally to friends and as myself. And I think that's really important, because otherwise you're always kind of looking at a potential crash, because
Yeah.
the identity is not you, it's your business, or it's
That's,
something else. And always setting yourself up for that, because there's always going to be transitions in life, retirement, midlife, maybe you
yeah.
don't have the same body you used to have, or like, that's been big for me. God, I used to be so hard on myself. Like I'd look in the mirror if I didn't have a six pack, or I didn't have this or that. And I'm like, I mean, that's probably part of aging. You're like, yeah, I'm good. I
I love it.
like the way I look. I'm good enough.
Love it. This is okay. So wonderful. Well, no, thank you, Holly. So just to repeat, so if anyone's interested in learning from you, go to theliftedmethod.com. That's your website. You'll be prompted to sign up for a newsletter if you want, and so that way they can learn about offerings, and then you can see everything on the Lifted website. You can do what I do, which is I take I'm part of her virtual program, so that I take her classes when I'm traveling wherever I am. You can sign up for one-on-ones, as you said. You can do the blueprint program, which kind of walks you through step by step. So there's kind of a menu of options that are available, and I encourage you all. You can tell she's awesome,
Oh,
And
I do want to mention one other thing
oh,
too.
please,
Well, a
please.
couple of things. Number one, we're going to give you a discount code for anybody that works with Charles. If you want to try any of our programs, we'd love to get your feet wet. And then from a CEO, from a business perspective, actually, somebody who's on this call, Emily, their company CRC does amazing things for their women's group, but it could be in general, and they really care about, you know, they care about their employees' mental health because they know it's going to affect their ability to be a good employee. So I do stuff with their company, Corporate Lifted, where I teach a virtual class for their employees every week. I do 4 30-minute sessions every week just for one-on-one consults. So really seeing the value in performance, that if you take care of your body, and again, this starts with you believing it. If I take care of my body, if I get that workout in the morning, I'm more articulate, I'm more creative, I have more energy, I am a better boss, I'm a better, person in general. So we offer lifted corporate programs as well, if it's something you want to share with your corporation. Yeah.
Yeah, and it goes back to our earlier comment about completing the circle. So if you're a business leader who is enamored with this, like I'm going to totally do it, you could actually share this with your employees and make it part of a wellness package, for example, an investment into their
Yeah.
health.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, thank you, Holly. So it's wonderful to talk with you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the recording now. For those of you who are watching this recording and only seeing it, if you were a member of my executive mastermind program and working with me, you'd be able to ask Holly questions live right now. But if you're just watching this recording, you're not. So I hope this was useful to you. And I'm really excited that you joined. And Holly, appreciate it. I'm confident that this was an inspiring conversation that encouraged other people to go beyond their perceived limits. So go do that, people.